What's up, guys? Welcome to Voicey here. This is your host that loves Frank Sinatra, Captain Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called Entitled Aunt Would Rather I Die Than Refuse Her Cooking. Summary. I recently moved back to the south because I hated wet, cold, miserable winters up north. However, I now realize there was one major drawback to moving back home. I should never have moved within driving distance to the majority of my family. And now my entitled aunt thinks I should die rather than hurt her feelings. Here's the cast. There's me, entitled aunt, my mother. Another year, another disappointing Thanksgiving. Of course, the usual disappointments were all there. A sister who thinks that being a single mom makes her a freaking saint instead of just someone that didn't remember to use birth control. Critical, alcoholic cousins who can't wait to point out everything wrong with someone else's life, but don't dare look at their own lives as they finish their 5th glass of wine in less than an hour, with the turkey still having 2 hours to go. The parental units who seem desperate to reclaim their lost youth by pretending they still have authority over children in their 30s and 40s, drunk uncles, screaming babies, and way too much drama. And then, of course, there is the biggest disappointment of all. My demanding attention floozy of an aunt and her freaking sweet potatoes. Those god-awful, too sweet, freaking make my teeth hurt just thinking about them crappy sweet potatoes. Her pride and joy side dish that she insists on bringing to every Thanksgiving instead of burying it with shame in the backyard with the rest of the fertilizer where it belongs. The dish she insists on forcing each one of us to consume. I could be deathly allergic to those lovers and she would still throw a fit if I refused to eat it. I even hate calling them sweet potatoes. I feel like the name insults real potatoes everywhere. Why couldn't my aunt just have picked a dish made of real potatoes instead? It's not like she didn't have plenty of potato dishes to choose from. Real potatoes are wondrous things and can be prepared stewed, scalloped, fried, twice baked, and so many other delicious ways. Real potatoes are simply wonderful. Real potatoes are also the only way to make a proper batch of fries. Fries, french fries, crispy taters, chips, freedom fries. Although that last one is a bit absurd even for me. Whatever you want to call them, fries are delicious, savory, salty, and a perfect complement to any dish of freshly killed and grilled meat. If my aunt made fries and they were cold when the turkey was served, I would still gladly eat those lovers instead of her stomach-turning sweet potatoes. On the other hand, sweet potatoes are an abomination when fried. People who make fries out of sweet potatoes have clearly suffered a psychotic break of gargantuan proportions and are now trying to take everyone else down the rabbit hole to cuckoo land with them by attempting to trick us into thinking we're getting fries instead of freaking sweet potatoes. I recently lost my oldest and dearest childhood friend to sweet potato fries. He has become a casualty of the devastation caused by sweet potatoes. Not only is he eating sweet potato fries, but to offset the sweetness, instead of ketchup, every God-fearing true blue American's choice for fry dipping, he's dipping those lovers in mayonnaise. Mayonnaise! This is the United States, not the Netherlands. No offense to the Dutch people, but no, just no. I tried to talk him back to insanity. I yelled at him, sweet potatoes are not for fries, they are for pie filling. Pie freaking filling! Unfortunately, I found him to be an unresponsive, broken shell of a man. He is lost in a twisted wonderland where up is down, hot is cold, and sweet potatoes are made into fries. But of course, the nastiest preparation for sweet potatoes is reserved for Thanksgiving, and somehow, my aunt has made it even worse. Whoever thought of candying sweet potatoes with brown sugar and maple syrup and then topping that crap with marshmallows is one seriously messed up, escaped mental patient. And to then make it a staple side dish on a national holiday. Well, that's some devious Dr. Evil level plan to destroy America. So naturally, my attention-seeking aunt had decided years ago that this travesty would become her signature side dish to bring to Thanksgiving. That monstrosity of a side dish has tormented me for years. Not only is it there during Thanksgiving, but everyone eats it. we don't have a choice. As my aunt is the one who brings the sweet potatoes, along with my alcoholic cousins that she spawned, she insists that everyone must have some of her famous side dish. We are then expected to fawn over her about how delicious they are and ask her what her secret is, blah blah blah. If anyone doesn't eat her candied marshmallow-covered turds and compliment her, she will harass them throughout the entire meal, constantly tell us how insulted she feels until we give in. This year, I decided to tell her no and pass on the orange, sugary horror. Have some of my famous sweet potatoes, OP? I'm sorry, entitled aunt, but I'm trying to cut sugar. My doctor says I really need to lose weight. Well, it's the holiday, so those calories don't count? Yes, they do. In fact, they count more, as we tend to overeat over the holidays and not exercise. Well, you should have told me in advance that you weren't going to have any, and I wouldn't have made as much. That's so inconsiderate of you. I'm one person out of 25 here. The amount you make wouldn't have changed. You should still have some since you didn't tell me in advance. That's a polite thing to do. You're practically spitting in my face by refusing. I slaved away in the kitchen for hours to make them. I know for a fact that she just pours them from a can, adds maple syrup and cinnamon, tops with marshmallows, and bakes for half an hour. I'm sorry, but I'm overweight as it is. I'm serious about trying to get in better shape. I'd like to be around for a while. Why do you hate me so much after all that I've done for you? I have no idea what she's done for me. I've only ever seen her during the holidays, and I still don't know why my doctor seems to care more about my health than my family. Entitled aunt then turns to my mother and says, I can't believe you raised such a horrible child. I'm freaking 40. Tell him to have some or I'm never coming back to this house again. LP, you know how sensitive your aunt is. Just have some and tell her it's delicious so she shuts up. It seems I was left with only 3 options. Option A, have some and pretend entitled aunt did a good job instead of trying to freaking poison me. Option B, refuse and hear her whining non-stop about how I insulted her for an entire freaking year. Option C, take the honorable way out by removing the carving knife from the turkey and committing seppuku right there in front of my loved ones. I'm still alive to write this, so you can guess the outcome. Once again, my aunt won this year. I caved into her demands to try some of her crime against food that she calls a side dish while she smugly smiled. I pretended to enjoy eating her potential violation of the Geneva Convention while constantly looking for my chance to go to the bathroom and attempt to quietly vomit that crap into the porcelain deity. I don't know about you, but option C looks better every freaking year. First of all, my man, thank you so much for writing that so well. That was just an absolute joy to read. That was a blast. Oh god. 80% of that story was just him ranting about sweet potatoes. I love it. I absolutely love it. I really hope he posts again for Christmas because, I don't know, I just love that writing style. They're just so, stories like these are so good. Oh god, I'm done. This story's called Entitled Mother Threatens to Burn Down School. I have been teaching for 22 years, so I have a lot of crazy stories. The one that stands out the most to me is a mom who lost her mind over me giving her son a B instead of an A on a project that he turned in late. At the school I was working at during this time, it was required for teachers to assign a spring break assignment. We had just completed a full week of testing, and my class looked like they were needing a break. I decided that instead of doing the normal read these chapters and write a report, that I would instead allow them to draw a picture of an invention that they thought was interesting or important, and write a paragraph about the inventor's life. I expressed that this assignment was going to be presented in front of the class by me, so they could watch their work for once instead of having to present it. We all broke for the break, and everyone seemed really excited to have a lot of their break for free time. When we returned from break, I drew the names of the students for the order in which they'd be presented. The first student I called on said that they didn't have the work done, so I told him to bring it the next day. The kids thought it was funny to watch me act out their presentations, and it was a great time. The next day, I go on to teach the presentations of the next group, the kid who missed out the day before going first. His presentation was nice, and I explained to him after class that while it was a great project, I was marking him down a grade letter for turning it in late. Fast forward, 2 days. I get a call from the office during my planning period that 2 parents were there to see me. I agreed to meet with them, and they came to my class. The father looked like he had been dragged along, and the mother looked like she was hyping herself up to get crazy with me.
I want to know why you are discriminating against my child?
Who is your child?
Kid's name? That's who the frick my child is.
Have a seat. Let's figure out what the problem is. Her husband grabs a chair and pulls it closer to her. She's still hyped up, but he's trying to help her sit down.
F you, F your people, F their people.
Has your son let you know that his assignment was late and that I accepted it late because he's a good student?
Screw that mess. I don't care about anything right now.
It was pretty clear that I wasn't going to get anywhere, so I decided to leave the room and get another teacher to help me get the parent out of my class. We didn't have security back then, so I was on my own. No more than a second after I stepped out of the room, I heard a loud crash. I turned around to see she had thrown a glass paperweight through the window, shattering it. I'm gonna call the police. You shouldn't be here when I get back. The entitled mother sprung to her feet and followed me, screaming at the top of her lungs. She was hopping up and down and clapping in my face, telling me she was
going to burn this whole mother fricker down today.
The mother just kept grabbing her by the coat and holding her back far enough that she couldn't make physical contact with me. She fell to the ground to slide out of her coat and was crawling towards me furiously at one point. It's a small town. The police could walk over faster than they can get in their car and drive here. Within minutes, they were pulling her to her feet trying to talk to her. She spit in the policeman's face and motioned like she was going to backhand her. He barely hip-bumped her and she fell to the ground. She screamed at the top of her lungs that she was being attacked. Her husband looked defeated, holding her coat, shaking his head. She went to jail for creating a public disturbance and for gross misconduct with a peace officer. The rest of the school year, she wasn't allowed on the property. The next year, I was promoted with my class, so it meant I had all the same kids as the previous year. I saw her dropping them off all the time because the ban had been lifted. She would always grind her teeth and growl at me. I'd speed up walking because I didn't want her to see me laughing. Imagine a grown woman sitting in her car making loud growling noises. Hilarious. Oh no, the parents, they found anime. All jokes aside, oh my goodness, parents, you need to hold your kids accountable. I remember, my dad would always take the teacher's side, which I admired until it legitimately wasn't my fault and it was the teacher's incompetence that caused me to... Okay, again, I've said multiple times before that I love teachers, okay? I've only ever had good experiences with teachers. I mean, at least good teachers with some bad experiences, but that's normal. And there have been times where teachers messed up and I got the blame for it because my dad refuses to believe me, which is very not healthy as a parent to do. But anyways, it's whatevs. I'm over it now. I don't hold grudges. This story's called Entitled Parent Says That Their Child Should Be Allowed to Break Housing Law. I live in a group of townhouses. I own while most others rent. There has been an ongoing problem of children being extremely loud, committing vandalism, and playing ball games on common property. This is all breaking the housing laws that we have for our complex. I live with chronic migraines, and another person in the complex also has health issues. Despite all the entitled parents involved knowing this, they allow their kids to start screaming at 6 a.m. It's gotten to the point where multiple homes have complained and the housing laws are going to be enforced. Before this, I feel like I should rattle off all the issues that have led to this point. Children playing at the top of their lungs in front of my window and in my front garden starting at 6:30 a.m. and ending at 8 o'clock p.m. Children breaking up rocks in my front garden into shards and leaving them where they can harm people and animals. The same rocks and shards being thrown into my backyard. This is especially dangerous because my dog's health dictates that my lawn is mowed regularly. Rocks can turn into projectiles when they meet mower blades. Things going missing from my backyard, then turning up a day or two later at my back door. One 10-year-old urinating in my front garden. Damage to the front of the property and surrounding trees. The children turning up and down the water pressure in my house. The tap is located in my front garden, despite tapping it up to stop it. I would like to say that if the children had been respectful, no one would have complained. But they did, and a letter went around dictating what laws were being broken and what ones are going to be enforced in the future. One entitled parent approaches the other person living in my home today and says,
I'm not keeping my entitled kid inside all holidays. We all need to figure out a time when they can bounce the ball and run around.
They have a backyard and don't need to play on common property. They have all been told over and over again how hard it's been living with the constant noise. The other entitled parent blames depression and his sick partner not being able to handle the entitled kids inside. The entitled kids are old enough to know that sick people need some peace and quiet. This is crazy. It's not my job to deal with someone else's kids, and I feel like they are being pushed onto me. I want silence in my own home for more than the time that the kids are at school. The temptation to fill my migraine diary with rude kids as a trigger is unbearable. I will give an update when the other person in my home is contacted by the housing law agent. You see, this is actually a big problem. You see, when you're a kid, you have all these adults telling you, hey, get off my lawn, you're making a all the stupid stuff you see in kids' movies with grumpy old Mr. Fletcherman or some generic grumpy old person name. But the thing is, the kids are jerks. They're little turds, okay? They break crap. They're loud, okay? People pay money to be in these nice neighborhoods and all that stuff, and then they're kids. The kids, they come and they're loud. Oh, God. Parents, keep your kids under control. I was a good kid when I was a kid. I mean, actually, when I was in, like, 2nd grade, I would, I don't know if I can talk about this. I would have, like, a fight club. Me and my friends would just meet up, like, 7, 8, like, kids. We would meet up and beat the crap out of each other. I was undefeated, though. All right. I beat up a bunch of 2nd graders. I don't care. I was still cool. Because I was a 2nd grader, too. Don't get it wrong. This story's called, It's My Dog, So I'm Allowed to Hurt It. Little bit of background. This happened when I was around 10. I played for a football team called PBFL, and I went there every Saturday, and still do. Cast. Me? Why bother asking?
Entitled mother?
Haven't we been here before?
Entitled kid?
I seem to remember this. Story. I had gotten to my football pitch and was practicing with my football team, and I was playing in goal. Enter entitled kid. I hear a yelp from behind and turn around. Excuse me? Entitled kid keeps yanking on her dog's leash. Hey, you aren't allowed to hurt your dog that way. It's animal cruelty. My dad watches the news all the time, so I know about this.
You can't tell me what to do.
Well, you are hurting your dog, and that is animal cruelty.
So, it's my dog. I'm allowed to do what I want with it.
No, you aren't. Your dog can be taken away because of animal cruelty.
Huh.
Entitled kid walks away. I turned back to practice, thinking, good deed done. Another dog saved. Woohoo! Boy, was I wrong. Re-enter entitled kid, dragging entitled mother along with her.
Excuse me.
I turn around. Yes.
Don't ever talk to my daughter like that again. Do you hear me?
Not sure how to react, I say, okay. I see her daughter crying behind her, looking at me nervously. They exit the scene. Now, please, don't criticize me for this. I was only 10 and I had never heard of a Karen or even discovered the subreddit, so I had no idea how to react. If I was the age I am now, with all of my current knowledge, I would have reacted very differently. But as I say, I was 10. I hope you enjoyed this post. You know what? That kid, good kid. He saw something bad going on. He said something about it. That's how everyone should be. Pedestrian effect, that is not as crazy common as you guys think. At least, I've seen lots of opposing evidence to its prevalence in our world today, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. People, they see an injustice happening, they are inclined to speak up, and that is something I'm so grateful for. And this kid, he's got that. He saw this kid, this little snot hurting a little dog, and he's like, "Hey, you know what happened? I just read the story." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.